Hello, everyone. My name is Todd Grisham, the voice of the upcoming video game esports boxing club. And joining me for our second edition of this uber popular roundtable is, of course, the founder and creative director of Steel City Interactive, Mr. Ash Habib, Will Kinsler, our global communications director, and our special guest this week, Boxing Fanatico, who is, of course, a content creator, one of the big names on YouTube. We're lucky to have him with us. We'll tell you more about why he's here and what he's been up to in just a minute. But Ash, let's start with you right out of the gate. Last time we were on this roundtable discussion, you said we had a couple of milestones to reach before we would announce our early access date. How are things going?
Thanks for that, Todd. Things are going really well, on track, on schedule. There's still obviously a lot of work that's taking place behind the scenes, but since the last roundtable discussion, we've got to a position where a multiplayer milestone has been achieved, which we're relatively pleased with, and we also carried out a focused playtest where we invited some members of the public to essentially test and play the game, and providing us feedback with how that went. So yeah, since the last roundtable, there's still a number of milestones to go, but so far it's a case of so far so good. We're generally very pleased with the feedback that we got from the playtest. That was a key moment for us, because obviously over the last few months, even since the content creator event where we got some feedback there, the team have been working really hard in making changes, making tweaks. Because even for early access, we don't want to launch something as a test bed, right? In terms of there's things that we can fix now, rather than putting it out in early access for people to tell us what's wrong with the game, right? So we would rather have a game that's as polished as possible for an early access release.
As far as that test went, what were some of you said you got a lot of feedback. What were some of the positives that you heard and some of the things that weren't as great?
Yeah, look, the key thing for us, literally from day one, was about the actual boxing mechanics, right? So taking visuals aside, audio aside, everything else, for us, it was all about the core mechanics of the game. And as I think most people know, punches and animations and the impacts was always an area that we've openly said is something that we're not completely satisfied with, and the play test showed some very good scores in that respect, in terms of how the punches felt, the combinations, and one of the things that I really wanted to get across in our game is just the feeling of being hit, right? And transferring that from screen whilst you're playing the game, and that's a very difficult thing to actually achieve. But that was a moment I think we were pretty satisfied with, in terms of the feedback, in terms of how the haymakers felt. Obviously, there's some balancing issues that we've got to iron out, right? So there were things in terms of stamina. So there's a number of areas that obviously we're working on, but the core fundamentals of the game, we were really pleased with the feedback there.
Well, we did release a gameplay video featuring Terrence Crawford that the public got to see. A lot of feedback on that, obviously, besides people going, when's the release date? When are you releasing the game? Well, of the feedback you got from that, do you think it was received pretty well?
Yeah, I think overall, I think people generally saw the improvements we've made with the punches, right? And I think for us, again, we've always spoken about the movement. We're really happy with how the movement in the game is coming along, in terms of how some of the boxers move and really replicate how boxing takes place in the ring, because that's what we're trying to do here. Obviously, there were some comments and views with regards to the visual aspect, and I think probably I'd like to maybe talk a little bit about that. And I think one of the things that we're doing here, in terms of developing the game and also bringing the community along with us, a project of this size and scale, we don't really have the luxury to spend a whole lot of time and resource perfecting something, and then right at the end of that putting something out. So we made a decision of essentially taking the community on the journey with us so we can get real-time feedback. And sometimes as part of that process, we almost have to undo things or unpick certain things before they can get better. So the decision here was taken that obviously in terms of the arena, the venue that we used for that particular video, I think some of the comments were that, they didn't look as good as some of the other venues or the shots that we've shown. And I think it's a fair comment, it's a fair reflection. But again, it was a case of, we made significant improvements to that venue. But that was always part of the plan, right? And as I mentioned, sometimes we have to kind of take 1 or 2 steps back to really improve and go forward in areas. And rather than making the community or people wait until we had improved and perfected that venue, and then launching that, it's not what this is about, right? This is about us, keeping the community involved and updated as much as we can. And things aren't going to look perfect, right? But the key thing here is, anything that we put out, right? It's not finalized, it's not finished, and the comments with regards to the visuals, they were valid in that video, and we're an open and a transparent studio. So the next time I think people will see that venue, we'll be looking forward to seeing what the feedback is there.
Well, I know that the feedback was especially welcome from Will and Fanatico because they were in charge of putting that video together. Will, how did all that come about?
Yeah, so, obviously we've, over the last year released a bunch of different sort of styles of gameplay videos. We've done these sort of dev update videos where the format, a lot of times is either Ash or myself, hopping on, talking through, where we're at in terms of the game. And we wanted to try something a little bit different, highlighting, one of the fighters that nobody has seen before, right? So Terrence Crawford, kind of, an important fighter in our game. And I thought, maybe it'd be fun to work with a creator on this one. Fanatico has played the game before. We can show high-level gameplay between him and I doing that. And also, watching his videos, I know that he has a creative flair, has a ability to come in and add something unique to the video. So it was fun to have him come out. He was here for about 5 days. We worked on the video. We played a lot of matches, obviously, during that time as well. And yeah, it was a great time and it was a fun collaboration. And I'm really happy with how that turned out.
Fanatico, take me through that process of when you got the call. I know you'd been there in March for the creator event. How did the game play compared to then? Take us through the whole process.
Yeah, Will gave me the call and he told me if I would be interested in this. And of course, it was a no-brainer to me. I was like, yeah, I'm 100% interested in doing this. But yeah, playing the game, I remember vividly that the moment we booted up the new build and I started throwing a few punches, I was just from that initial period, I was already kind of shocked at the difference in the flow and how much even my punches and all that stuff, the movement had improved. And then as I started diving deeper into the game to kind of test what else is different, I started realizing that, I could block the body and move my head and stuff that we couldn't do before, or I can lean and punch very quickly, or even leaning, I was able to move quicker and have more distance, more range, more control over that. I was honestly floored by how much it had improved from March to June. And I even told Will the exact number that came to my head was that the gameplay or the game itself feels about 50% better than the creator event. Even just the feel, that tactile feel of punching and receiving punches and trying to get away, it just felt much more visceral. So yeah, but that whole thing was an honor to be part of it. Never thought that something like that would even take place. So for Will to and the team to give me that opportunity, and then to see the reception to the trailer, I think that it was just it came full circle. The whole thing was just an amazing experience. So thank you so much, Steel City, for that.
Will, you talked about you guys having some pretty big battles. What kind of things did you learn about the game maybe you didn't know before?
Oh man, I mean, I think that was kind of like the revelation to me, right? As somebody that plays this game every single day, playing it. I mostly play it, against the AI here. Sometimes when I have, somebody come by, I'm able to play with a human opponent. But I've not spent a whole week playing against somebody that is kind of capable of the high level play. So, I mean, for me, I think like we kind of spent the week basically going back and forth trying to outsmart each other in the game. And so it opened up a lot of layers of stuff that, I wasn't aware was possible. So like, an example would be, one of the things that Fanatico figured out right away was catch and shoot, right? So, I'd come in a lot of times, I'd try to, end my combination with a body shot. He figured that out. He knows I'm going to do that. And he'd time his block and throw the counter, and boom, you get that spray of sweat off you that you messed up. And he was doing that to me in a bunch of the early matches. And so, I was having to figure out, okay, so, what do I want to do about that? Well, there's so many different ways you can approach it. I would come in and, accept that was going to happen. And I would try to throw a short, uppercut on the inside before he could throw that shot. Or, I'd feint a power, I'd come in and throw my combination. And instead of throwing that, throwing that last, body hook in there, I'd feint a hard body hook and then throw, a left hook, with my other hand. So there was just, I think, I don't know, what do you say, Fanatico? We got like 7 or 10 layers deep in like trying to outsmart each other.
One thing that Rack said was, and I think I believe this, was that I don't think anyone in the world has ever seen the game being played the way we were playing it. I think by day, 4 or 5, it was like, what's going on? Like we were just so many layers deep in terms of adjusting and evolving the gameplay that we were finding things out that like, that's where I found out that I can combine my default punching combinations with the directional punching smoothly, and then be able to kind of subvert your expectations with those kind of combinations, which where I would use the overhand right and get right over your guard. And I love that dynamic guard. A lot of people are thinking, oh, is it going to be too difficult? Like, I don't think it is that difficult to kind of catch your opponent's rhythm and then block accordingly. I think you were able to do that to me. I was able to do that to you. I think maybe like, a casual player may not be able to just pick it up right away, but I think more experienced players can get a grasp of that type of defense.
Yeah, I do think that's an area where, it helps to, have that knowledge of boxing where kind of the order and the punches that they're going to come back towards you, right? I think for me, like one of the stories was like basically that of the week was that like it didn't feel like the fights played out the same, right? It's like when somebody would make an adjustment, it's like I spent a whole fight, one time, just trying to understand when I thought Fanatico would throw a shot and I would try to hit him first, right? And that was like, for that whole fight, that was like the thing I had in the back of my head. Can I do this? I had other fights where I was just I felt like he was throwing the bigger counters. And so I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to match him there. So I'm just going to try to touch him with light shots whenever I can, right? I'm going to double the jab. I'm going to throw in between his counters. I'm going to, as we exit in the exchange, I'm going to just try to touch him one more time, stuff like that. And so, we just had things just played out totally differently based on what we were learning.
Yeah. And one thing that frustrated me from the beginning, because like I wanted to be that guy, I just wasn't. Your jab, you always was out jabbing me. And it was driving me nuts because I wanted to be the jab guy. I wanted to be the guy that could play on the outside on you. But you threw that out the window for me. So I had to come up with so many different ways of engaging you because you will always out jab me. I can't just try to jab you because you would probably get it out first or do a side step jab or something that was like was going to mess me up. So that's when like the catch and shoot, I even evolved that to timing it, to the head and the body to make it even more confusing for you. And it was just beautiful, man. We did so many different things, even up until the moment that I had to go to the airport. Like we still, even at that time, had shifted the gameplay like right before, like a few hours before I had to leave, which was incredible.
Well, let me tell you about when I played Fanatico. You can hear my little story?
Yeah, let's hear what happened in that fight.
Hear my story. This is back in March, and you've won like world titles in video gaming, right?
Yeah. Competitions.
Like this guy like the best of the best. So I'm gonna play against Fanatico, and he's doing the stick and move, the little slap and tickle with me. I'm like, bro, I don't have the patience. Let's just freaking go to war, right? All right, fine. Boom, boom. I get some shots in. I'm doing pretty good. And he eventually grinds me down and beats me. But I was like, man, I was hanging with the world's best. I walk around the corner, and Showbiz, one of the other, shout out to Showbiz. Showbiz is there, and I hear them talking. And Showbiz goes, man, he was touching you up, or were you letting him? He goes, oh, I was just toying with him. I was letting him get it. I was like, geez, a lot. So,
Yeah,
guy's legit.
I think one of the things I appreciate about Fanatico is how much of a competitor he is, because I'm not on that level of desire to win. I think like for me it's more of like a curiosity of can I solve the puzzle, but I'm not driven in that way. And so it's like we had days where if I got the best of him that day, or even just like at the end of that day, like the next morning he was like, we got to play again right now, right? And we had like a specific matchup that was kind of like our default matchup to the week, where I was using Lyndon Arthur and he was using Roy Jones, and that kind of became the standard for like, where are we at right now? Who's got the advantage, so that we could go back to that fight and see where we stacked up.
But one of the reasons why that became the standard was because all the fighters felt different. Like I remember I played with Adelaide, and I loved how Adelaide, fights. And I was actually kind of shocked too that he had all like his punches from the March trailer. That was really cool, like the looping kind of body hook and stuff. So like it just, I wanted that same ground, so we could always check to see, because maybe I'm better with Adelaide than you are with Tyson Fury or something, and things like that. So I wanted always to have that same ground. And I think that the Lyndon Arthur and the Roy Jones Jr., like that was the litmus test. If I won consistently, then I'm better right now. And if you won consistently, then you're better at that moment.
Let me ask everybody this. You only get one answer, all right? Ash, who overall in the game, looks, everything, who is your favorite character so far in ESBC? One fighter.
Tyson Fury.
Tyson. Will.
Conor Benn.
Fanatico.
Roy Jones Jr.
I like Deontay Wilder. That's great. 4 different fighters. That's awesome. Hey, one thing, Ash, that I was wondering about, how's the judging going? I know that's got to be a little difficult. Are they relying strictly on like CompuBox numbers for who gets the decisions?
So judging, we wanted to really expand on the way the judging system works in ESBC. And we've done that by giving judges essentially personalities, right? So you'll find judges that will score for accuracy. You'll find judges that will score for the big shots, right? The more eye-catching shots. You'll have more balanced judges that take everything into account. And there's one or two other scenarios in there with regards to how the judges can score. And what we found based on the feedback is that it's working out pretty well. During the fight, a predictive scorecard comes up, right, where it might be a commentator's view in terms of how this fight is being scored, but there's a good chance that'll be different from the actual final scorecards. We wanted there to be a question mark in terms of scoring, right? As is the case, I think we can all agree on in boxing. Probably not as controversial as some of the decisions we see, but there's certainly an element that we want to keep players on their toes, where it may not be as straightforward or as easy as they think if they want to fight. So we think we've got a pretty good balance, and we're excited to kind of get the community's feedback once he wants to start playing the game in terms of how that feels. But I just want to touch briefly on what Will and Fanatico were saying in terms of the gameplay and going a few layers beneath the surface. And for me to hear that, it's pretty amazing, because I think the whole philosophy and the mantra for us when we started making this game was really to try and stay true to almost the core tenets of boxing. And one of the things that young fighters are taught is hit and not get hit, right? And that was one of the key driving factors in terms of our movement system, right? Because I just always felt like in combat games it was almost about hitting the other person or kind of turning into a bit of a slugfest. And I think saying we want to make a game where it's based around hitting and not getting hit is probably easy to say. It's way more difficult actually putting that into practice. And the months and months of iterations that the studio, the guys have been making to the game, to be able to get it to a point where Will and Fanatico are saying pretty much exactly that in terms of how the gameplay feels, how they're constantly trying to outsmart, outdo each other, kind of like a cat and mouse scenario. That's exactly the kind of experience, the place where we wanted the game to be. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because that is an incredibly important part of the game, where players can genuinely feel like if they know about boxing, then they should be doing pretty well in ESBC.
And what about one punch KOs? I know that's when I was fighting Fanatico, I was like, what is it, the upper right trigger to throw that freaking power punch? And I'd catch him and he'd walk right through it. I need to be able to knock people out with one punch, Ash.
Well, I thought you were going to go into one of your end of camera kind of punch finishes there, Todd.
Yeah.
Not quite there yet. Well, look, I think the one punch KOs, again, we're trying to replicate what happens in the ring, right? And there may be some varying opinions about having complete KOs in the game. So for us right now, we feel that it feels pretty good. We want to have a balance between it not occurring every second fight, right? Where everyone's getting knocked out left, right, and center. So we're just trying to find the right balance between how often somebody does get knocked out in the game completely. Because it's a hot topic right now, and I'll be interested to hear what our community thinks about complete flash KOs, right? I mean, there's talk of some people that in terms of competitive environments in esports, complete flash KOs should be disabled, right? Because if you're in a final and you've just been knocked out by a KO in the first 30 seconds, how that's going to feel as from an experience point of view. So we're essentially that's an area that's we haven't finalized, but we feel like it's in a pretty good place right now.
We only saw one the whole week that we were playing, and it actually ended up being kind of a bit ironic because we were doing Deontay Wilder, I was controlling Wilder, and Fanatico had Tyson Fury, and of course I wanted to use Deontay Wilder and see if I could knock him out. And about halfway through the fight, it became really clear, like, I'm not going to win this fight on the scorecards. So I was looking for that one big punch. And what ended up happening is maybe around 7th or 8th round, I got hit with a one punch right hand counter, and the fight was over. And I was like, well, there's our one punch KOs, man. I see one of them. So at least in the amount of fights that we played, it kind of felt like it's in a good spot now. Hopefully, get into early access and people will let us know where it's at. But yeah, I think from my perspective, it's a part of boxing, right? You just don't want it to happen too often.
Fanatico, what's your biggest complaint about the game right now? We got to take the bad with the good. What's your biggest complaint?
Obviously, some of the glitches were a little bit annoying, but I don't even think of that as something that I would have to even think about. Right now, obviously the punches could probably still get a little bit more improved, but they're much better than they were before. It's hard to say. I did enjoy most of what I experienced. I want to see it completed, like a completed thing where, Kenny Bayless is all super involved and everything. But right now, if I had to pick something, probably still maybe the whole leaning and punching at it while being in that angle. Probably that's maybe the only thing I could think of. But overall, like I said, if that game was to drop, if they clean the glitches, of course, and if that game was to drop the way we played it, it would probably change combat sports, video games.
Wow. By the way, did you have commentary on? Was I on there?
No, we did not have the commentary on. No,
No. Did you have it on and you muted it? Because I'm
no, we didn't have it at all. We didn't have it at all.
I know you remember this, Todd, but we called you and asked you to do voiceover for the video, so we didn't have commentary on. You remember you sent us some.
Yeah. Well, he mentioned Kenny Bayless. What's the latest with him and those glitches, and how involved is he going to be in this game, or any ref for that matter?
So I think, as some people may have seen, Kenny was in the voice recording studio doing some lines for the game. So right now the referee in the game is an area that needs quite a bit of work. So we're not satisfied at the moment in terms of how the referee's working right now. But in terms of interactions, there'll be referee coming in to take points deductions off illegal blows, through to checking a fighter's cut, or checking a fighter's if his eye or her eyes closed with bruising. So there will be some significant referee interactions, and obviously a lot of that requires quite a lot of work from the team. So whilst we're happy with the direction we're taking with referees, there's still a lot of work to be done, because I think, as probably most people can see in our videos, right now the referees either just stood in the corner or just moving kind of like in maybe in weird angles. So that's a big area of improvement for us to get towards early access.
Well, speaking of being more immersive in the game, I know at one point you talked about maybe for elite level video game players, maybe creating a more immersive mode in the game. Is that still happening, and what would that look like?
Yeah, I mean, again, that was one of the core almost philosophies of this game early on, in that I wanted this game to be again, bring that player into that, have that immersive feeling where they feel like they're in the ring, they're experiencing everything apart from getting hit in the face, right? That's the level that we wanted to try and hit. So the immersive mode, is still a work in progress, right? But currently we've done an immersive mode which removes the HUD pretty much entirely, where you don't even see the round timer, right? You don't even see the which round you're in, because again, in boxing, a fighter, they don't get a clock that they can look at, and you hear it even in between rounds, right? Where a fighter sometimes asks, what round is it, right? And for us, it's almost trying to find that balance between having a really immersive kind of mode. But there's levels that I think are going to require a lot of balancing, and again, I'd like to hear what the community think about that aspect of what we're trying to do. I mean, there's one or two ideas that I had which probably takes it a little bit too far or too extreme to I guess to reality, where it's like, hey, if you get caught with a counter, I want there to be a significantly high chance of you getting knocked out, or if you get caught in the middle of a big punch, then that should have a significant impact on you getting knocked out. But again, it's just about balance, right? Where we've got to balance it between what takes place in real life to what is actually enjoyable to play. So our immersive mode compared to the standard mode that we've got, we just want to get that right, strike that right balance. And again, this is an area that we'll be looking to the community for as well in terms of feedback.
What are your thoughts on that, Fanatico?
I think it's awesome. I'm one of those people that I do like that feeling where I feel like it's, if I'm watching the fight or I'm part of a real fight, and if you can get as close to that as possible, it's always going to be entertaining for me. Those kind of things entertain me. And I'm sure that a lot of people in the community as well, because I'm always interacting with the community, that they appreciate that kind of stuff. I think, yeah, you can definitely do that. And if you have like a separated thing where even with online, in terms of that stuff, we're going to get fights that probably are more in line with what we're looking for in terms of people wanting to go there and box, as opposed to getting in there and meeting a spammer or something like that, which normally happens if you just go into regular online modes. So I think it's cool to have those two things, and it kind of creates an avenue for people who want to play with a more realistic style to have enjoyment. So I'm all for that. Like, yes, please, more of that stuff.
All right, Will, I guess this about wraps it up. Is there any other thing coming up on the timeline that we can kind of tease for our fans that maybe they should be looking forward to?
I don't know. I mean, I think
breaking news. Give us breaking news.
We'll see. I mean, I think, we're trying to put out content more often. I hope people are recognizing that. We're going to keep doing these roundtables regularly. We've got the renders coming out of the fighters every month. We know people want to see more gameplay. We do want to show longer, sort of extended gameplay. We're working on it. We're trying very hard to get there. Overall, we really appreciate people being like super patient about all the things that, that they're waiting for, whether it's seeing longer gameplay or, wanting to know what the date is. We're excited for that stuff to happen too. We just want to make sure that we do it in the right way. And that when we tell you a date, that we also are right about the date, that we're not coming back, one more time and saying, just kidding, guys. But so, yeah, I mean, hopefully people will, keep giving us feedback on the content we're putting out. We're definitely reading that stuff and thinking about it as we go to make the next piece of content we're releasing.
All right, Ash, you're the founder of the whole company. I'll give you the last word.
I suppose, yeah, I mean, look, I just want to say thank you to the community for the feedback that we get. We go through, what you guys say with regards to what we're creating here, because again, I've said this, a few times before that, we were the community as well in terms of getting this game off the ground, in terms of making this for the community. That philosophy is still the same today. We're delighted with regards to how the development has gone. We're delighted with, a lot of aspects in the game, but we want to still kind of remain true to our, our indie studio core, right? Where, we're doing things like this, where we've got, Fanatico talking about the game here, and getting involved with the community, because, this game has also been built up by the community, right? So, that's not about to change, anytime soon. So for me, it's just a thank you for the community's patience and the support, whilst we're trying to achieve, what I think a lot of people said was impossible 2 years ago, right? So, those are pretty much the final comments from me.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we mentioned Terrence Crawford's video that we released. We also announced that Ryan Garcia is going to be in the game. Fanatico, I know you love him. I think one of the toughest jobs, other than Ash's and Will's and maybe mine, is that these guys are going to have to give the attributes to these fighters. I mean, Fanatico, who should have faster hands? Roy Jones, Sugar Ray Leonard, or Ryan Garcia?
Oh my gosh. They're all,
you know what I mean? How do you,
yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
I would probably say, probably Sugar Ray Leonard, but that's just me. I don't know. Like somebody might have a different opinion.
Yeah. Well, maybe Roy Jones, just because his arms are so longer, but he can still get there so quick. I mean, that guy, best fighter I've ever seen in my lifetime, Roy Jones Jr. I guess what.
Pretty safe bet.
All right. Hopefully we can do this again soon. Fanatico, thanks for joining us. Will, see you next time. And Ash, you better hurry up and release that damn date. You hear me? I can't beat the damn computer I played last night. I can't win.
You can't. No, computer was pretty hard. It was kicking my butt day one, but then I was kicking
I'm not
his
even
butt.
on pro. I'm on like amateur.
No, it only kicked my butt. It only kicked my butt day one. After that, I put it on the hardest difficulty I could beat it. But you just got to get the little rhythm to try to get it.
Defense. Because I'm going to combination. He's hitting me too, and he's for some reason he's always got more power and more stamina.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is a thing that they do have. Yeah. More power, more stamina, more health.
We're making him harder, right? At the moment, I'm not happy with how the AI is playing right now. So there's a whole lot of work actually taking place in the current sprint, where the guys are, for me, the max difficulty should be almost unbeatable. And right now I can beat him pretty much every time. So
you can.
Why are you acting surprised?
Because I beat you.
Yeah, I think it's too easy. I think it's too easy right now.
Yeah, it is pretty easy.